And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We are talking the new F1 fan survey is out, and what does it mean, and is it really relevant? Well, some wise man once said, statistically speaking, if you had your feet in the fire and your head in the refrigerator, or the freezer, no doubt, you should be statistically comfortable. We all know that's not the case. They're stats, and more stats. What do they mean? Do they tell the whole story? We'll get into it. So here is the fan survey in all its glory. You can get it, I think, from motorsport.com. Formula One has it as well. And it says here, essentially, Formula One and Motorsport Network teamed up to ask over 100,000 self-identified, highly engaged fans in 186 countries how they connect with the sport today. A result, a global snapshot of modern fandom, is it though? Where culture shapes entry points, does it though? Content powers connection, really? And the thrill of the race unites. Oh, perhaps. Obviously, they're going to choose the stats in the survey that are going to favour them, let's be fair. Let's get into those stats, shall we? So the first one, which is interesting, most engaged fans. So the insights come straight from the core of the F1 fan universe, it says. Survey reflects the views of self-identifying, highly engaged F1 fans, respondents who opted to participate in F1 Motorsport Network teams, affiliated media promotion. It captures the pulse, it says, of the sport's most attentive and passionate audience. Now, a worldwide response. So we have 49% Europe. Yeah, F1 still remains strong in Europe. Nearly half. 26% in the Americas. We'll have a chat what the Americas actually mean. 13% Asia Pacific, and 12% the rest of the world. Now, one interesting thing I wanted to have a look at is the F1 races by region. We have 9 in Europe, 4 in Asia Pacific. Get into that in a second. What is Asia Pacific? Well, I can tell you what it's not. The Middle East. Yeah, that's what it's not. 4 in the Middle East, 5 in the Americas, 1 in South America, and 1 in Eurasia, as in Baku. Now, if you want to know a tiny bit more about where that is, I have done a fairly nifty PDF, which is here. Here is the PDF. So let's have a look at the race. So Europe, 9 races. We're looking at Italy, Monaco, Spain, Austria, United Kingdom, Belgium, Hungary, Netherlands, Italy. Baku's not on there, but give me a second. In Asia Pacific, Australia they've got here, which is kind of Oceania. It's in its own continent, really, but they've got China, Japan, and Singapore is classed as Asia Pacific. Now, the Middle East, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, United Arab Emirates. Here is where I have a slight problem, but I'll get into that. And the Americas, United States, Canada, United States. That's Las Vegas, Miami, and yes, Circuit of the Americas. We are not worthy. And obviously Canada, again, we're not worthy. That lovely one in Montreal. South America, we got that one race in Brazil. Eurasia, if you want to count it, it is Azerbaijan. So, back to the survey. Why do we have a problem with the survey? Well, 49% Europe, fine. I mean, we've got 9 races in Europe, technically 10 if you count Baku. That's kind of not quite half the calendar. I think we should have more races in Europe. Where is Germany? Where is France? Ridiculous. You call yourself a Formula One World Championship. You've got these, yes, European countries, very key European countries. Germany, Mercedes, France, they have Alpine there. And also the home of the first, Grand Prix, so to speak. Not the first ever F1 race for the World Championship. That was Silverstone in 1950. 26%, the Americas. I kind of get it. 3 races in America, we like. I very much like. I don't have a problem with that. 3 races in America. Bear in mind how big America is. But please get rid of Miami. Please. 13% Asia Pacific. Well, we've gone for that. That's like Japan, China, for example, Australia. But the 12%, the rest of the world. Okay, the rest of the world. And we have 4 races in the Middle East. So the Middle East clearly don't really care about Formula One when you look at those percentages. When you look at the fact that 4 of those races, we have Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi. There's an over-representation of Middle East races, I think. And when you look at that 12% for the rest of the world, that 12% is not just the Middle East, is it? It's going to be there. So, first of all, that's kind of where it falls flat. Not the stats of the survey, but when you look at the results and you ask why, the why is the money. That's essentially where, it is. It's all about the money. We want the money. sad, sad time. So next up, we have the extensive global reach underscored by US momentum. Yes, the United States is one of the faster growing places. Still, 26%, 49% Europe. But it is still one of the fastest. It is still one of the fastest growing when you look in a bit at all the stats, and it's really impressive. And I think it's great that Formula One has finally, since Drive to Survive, finally cracked America, which is a good thing. More sponsors, more eyeballs on the sport. We love it. 100k self-identified fans in 186 countries, and number one, the US accounts for the largest share of respondents of any individual country. It'll be interesting to see. And what I don't know is what other languages this was in. If it was just English, then of course potentially you're going to get the most respondents from the United States, because that's one of the biggest English speaking countries. Now, I'm not going to say American English, but it is one of the biggest English speaking countries, obviously. So I don't know. It was global. I'd like to think in terms of diversity there were other languages involved, but if not, then why are we surprised that the US had the most respondents? No, not really. Also, in terms of the US and all of the other countries, of course the US, it's one of the biggest countries in terms of population that now follows Formula One. So it's kind of a given. I'm not obviously here to slag the fantastic United States of America off, because they have an amazing motorsport heritage. The Indy 500, the Daytona, NASCAR, IndyCar, a wealth of sports cars and a wealth of names. I mean, we've got Haas in Formula One, we've got Cadillac, we've got Andretti, well, a really big name, Phil Hill, another name from the United States. So yeah, America's awesome, but it's kind of like an obvious thing, really, isn't it? There, so fair enough. Now, Gen Z is a generational. Gen Z respondents 27%, really, really good. Having said that, when you look at Gen Z, they're the ones most likely to be on the internet. They grew up in the internet age. I think I'm just about a millennial. It's debatable whether I am or not. But we people my age grew up without the internet. That's not to say they're not going to respond, but it's more likely that it's going to be Gen Z that responds. 27%. One good stat: 1 in 2 of Gen Zs are female, which is brilliant. I like that. Now, Gen Z in the US engage with F1 content daily. 70%. Okay, that's a stat just thrown out there. What does it mean? What does that 70% mean? Really, really good. So women powering the next wave. I think they're over-egging the women pudding, although I like the stats. It is going up. It is very good for Formula One. And also, what's good for Formula One is also good for sponsors. Imagine, some people might want to cringe, but imagine beauty products on the side of Formula One. It opens up potentially a whole new range of sponsors for teams and money, which means teams can be more competitive, etc. No more pay drivers. See you later, Lance Stroll. Oh no, his dad's owned the team, but you get my drift. So 1 in 4 survey respondents are women, an all-time high. So they had 10% in 2017, 18% in 2021. And, another equally big jump from 2021 to 2025, where 25% of the respondents are female. And I think that's from Drive to Survive. 2021 was really getting popular. We're just coming out of that pandemic, weren't we? And now, brilliant. This is a stat that I have big question marks over. Committed for the long term. So it says, F1 is attracting a newer audience while maintaining its appeal to long-time fans. Okay. Now, while the survey features responses from a spectrum of genders, ages and regions, a universal passion for F1 unites them. Okay. It's just such PR speak. It's almost, get a bucket of sick out. But that appeal is rooted in both tradition and reinvention. I mean, who wrote this? Legacy and emerging surveyed fans coexist within the same ecosystem. Oh my god, I'm going to bath. And are equally intent on their commitment to long-term fans. You could have said that in one sentence. But anyway, survey respondent emerging fans, 27% have followed F1 for 5 years. Well, under 5 years. Okay, fair enough. Everyone said, "Oh no, the Drive to Survive, they're ruining Formula One." Well, yeah, no. I see your point, but they're engaging more with the content. There maybe are your casual fans, but it's where your casual fans you get a lot of the money, and it's your hardcore fans that keep the sport somewhat relevant. So they're just as important. Long-time fans, 73%, they followed F1 for 6+ years. It's like myself. And it says here 94% of the respondents plan on following Formula 1 in the next 5 years. So the other 6% are clearly had enough, but they decided to do the fan survey anyway. Weird. It's nice that you plan to follow Formula 1 in 5 years, but that pretty much means absolutely nothing. You imagine next year, for example, if Mercedes have an awesome engine and an equally awesome car, they're going to dominate. It may well be Max Verstappen dominating if he does go to Mercedes, or George Russell and Kimi Antonelli, and it could potentially be very boring. Are those 94% going to continue watching and following Formula 1? I doubt it. Unless they are really hardcore Mercedes fans. And it says here, the duality, PR speak, the duality of Formula 1 today, a sport that feels both fresh and established, is one of the most powerful assets and reasons why it is set up for the long term. Oh, God. So the thrill unites across generations, geographies, and tenure. One thing remains the constant, the racing itself. I mean, this is kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, this stat. 90% of respondents are emotionally invested in race outcomes. Duh. I mean, absolutely, of course they're going to be invested in race outcomes. Otherwise, they're not going to watch it. Then also, your fan is not going to pick it up and answer a survey. Goodness knows what the other 10% were doing. Did they pick up the wrong survey? It's just really weird. It says underneath, 86% rate their passion for F1 at the highest levels, no matter how fans find their way in. Speed! Oh God, no, I can't read any more of that PR speak. But 90% of respondents are emotionally invested in race outcomes. Well, of course they are. I mean, that's just really, really silly. That's up there with the guy that finishes first is going to win the race. Moving on. Sponsorship drives consideration. 76% of respondents believe sponsors enhance the F1 experience. I forgot. We need to get the original question. 1 in 3 are more likely to consider a purchase from F1 partners. 39% of US Gen Z respondents say they're more likely to consider an F1 sponsor product. Yeah. I mean, obviously this is now absolute PR for Formula 1, isn't it? They're doing it to please sponsor us more. Enhance. I mean, in what way does it enhance the F1 experience? Yes, it gives Formula 1 more money. Yeah. So from that point of view, I understand. To be fair, it has worked in a way. I'm guilty of it. I'm probably the 1 in 3 because back in the late 90s, I saw Hugo Boss on the side of the beautiful West McLaren Mercedes, and I asked Hugo Boss for Christmas, and it smelled nice. So yes, they have a point, but yeah. So the rise of F1 Academy is a defining part of the broader F1 experience. 23% of survey respondents follow F1 Academy, so that's just under a quarter. 42% of female respondents follow F1 Academy. That makes sense. It'll be interesting to see the numbers though, because F1 Academy, I mean, the grandstands aren't particularly full, sadly, because I think now it's really, really good. I mean, Abby Pulling had an absolutely stunning season last time out, and she's in, GB, I think GB3, which is kind of like the precursor to the current Formula 3 we have on the grid now. And I think Formula 1 Academy, I think it does as much for women as it potentially harms it as well. What do I mean by that? I think overall it's a really, really good thing. You've got these girls, you're giving the girls a chance, you're putting the spotlight on the girls, and you have to wonder what kind of message is that sending, because the casual fan's going to watch it, and within 2 or 3 years they're going to question, well, why isn't there a female in Formula 1? I think there should have been. I mean, Susie Wolff, I think, that one time, I think one of their drivers, Paul Resta at Hungary, did it, and I think maybe Susie Wolff should have done it. Whether it should have been fast enough or not, but it would have been an amazing PR exercise. The first time they get a female in Formula 1 in any team is going to be absolutely massive. Even if they are at the back of the grid team, they're going to have so much PR. Sky are going to do content. Everyone's going to do content. They're going to have loads of people around them, loads of cats, especially the first time. It's going to be so much pressure for that poor girl when that does actually happen. And I think we will get, definitely within the next decade, we'll have our first F1 female driver, simply because You know, if you even if you take away they can drive a Formula One car adequately, you know, rather than amazing, it's going to happen surely simply because of all the sponsors, the sponsors and everything else. But the one thing that I think F1 Academy does harm it somewhat is because it's just females. It's also its biggest strength. I think is also its biggest weakness. Its weakness, sadly, because we want to see these females go against the guys, and you know, being a fan, if you're a fan of the females, if you're part of that 42%, you're gonna want, yeah, for the girls, hashtag girl power, etc. And you're gonna want, you know, the girls good enough to be in Formula One. That'll be amazing. Now the issue for that is it's kind of like at the moment it's got a lot better, but at the moment it's like almost like looking for female bricklayers. There aren't many, and of those female bricklayers, the pool of that is not going to be that much to choose from that you're going to get an amazing bricklayer. You'll probably get the best bricklayer out of the females, really good, who'll be fairly good, but in terms of the top 100 bricklayers for men, they might not even feature, and that might be the issue there at the moment. But now you see the rise of female interest in Formula One and in motorsport. That will increase. We'll get a bigger pool of females, and hopefully a decade from now, it's going to be good. But right now, that is potentially the issue. Not that I want Formula Academy to go away at all. Anyway, that was my rant on Formula Academy. I do watch it, I enjoy it. So how F1 fans are finding the sport, this is interesting. Friends and family, that's always going to be up there. 39%, strongest for survey respondents who are age female between 25 and 34. And in legacy markets such as Europe, yeah, legacy markets, I like that, but listen to that, that's nearly half the fans, Europe. If everyone in Europe switched off, Formula 1 would be in trouble. TV coverage, 24%. Strongest for survey respondents who are male, age 45 and plus. I'm just about not in that category. And long-time fans of F1, on that one I am in for more than 6 years. That kind of makes sense. Now, 12% social media, 12% driver interest. It's interesting that says 10% drive to survive. You have to wonder, with all this drive to survive hype, how accurate that really is. But I do think that I think that's kind of interesting. I'm really shocked that the drive to survive isn't more though. Modern F1 fandom is emotional. Please ask me. F1 fans aren't just watching; they're investing, interacting, and engaging with the sport frequently. Across platforms, time zones, surveyed fans are shaping a continuous connection to the sport, one that reflects the more dynamical with. Yeah, okay. But of that, we've got 61% of respondents engage with F1 content daily. But what does that mean? Is that looking at F1 content? Is that an engagement, just looking at it? Or is it retweeting or commenting on? Would that be considered engagement? I imagine if you downloaded the full report, potentially, you would have a bit more, information. 34% of respondents engage with F1 content a few times a week. Okay, fair enough. More than a sport, a cultural signal. It says Formula One isn't just something fans watch, it's something they wear, share, and stand for. F1's culture, I can't read it, I'm sorry. F1 is culture and fans are lit. 59% of participating emerging fans say fashion and style are important to their fandom. Okay. 52% say social status shapes their enjoyment and perception of F1. And 66%, this is of Gen Z though, respondents feel personally inspired by Formula One drivers. Okay. I mean, I can think of better people to be inspired by, but fair enough. Formula One drivers. I mean, I get it. If you're into, for me, James Vowles inspires me way more than I think the most of the drivers. I get like Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen. I think the big drivers. I'm being a bit unfair now, maybe. I think the big drivers absolutely. Lando Norris inspire. But yeah, I mean, Lando Norris certainly doesn't inspire me for anything. Although I like him and I want him to win. The same with like Lewis. I'd argue that Lewis Hamilton, to a certain degree, transcends the sport, and therefore, as many people think, oh no, I'm not a massive fan of him, just as many, if not more, really like him. That's quite interesting. I think now live experiences on and off the track. Fans, 1 in 2 fans who haven't attended a race say they plan to, assuming they can afford it, because it's really expensive now. 76% say having a home race makes them feel more likely to follow F1. That one I completely agree with. If there wasn't a Silverstone, would I be still an F1 fan? I don't know. I mean, I've been to Silverstone quite, I think 2000, 2008, 2006, 2007, and then 14, 15, 16, I think 21, it's about 10 times. And sadly, I've not been to any other track, but I absolutely love Silverstone. I've pretty much watched it from every angle you can. So say having a home race makes them feel more likely to follow Formula 1. That one I do completely agree with. And I get it, 1 or 2 fans haven't attended, say they plan to, doesn't mean they're going to. When you look at the Silverstone prices at the moment, as of the 2nd of July, yes, it is this weekend, it's on Wednesday, I think it was like over £300 for Sunday general admission, which is absolutely crazy. I mean, that's just ridiculous prices. 73% of US respondents plan to attend in the future. Plan. I mean, that's the thing. They plan. Yeah, it doesn't mean you're going to. I mean, what? I'd probably take away 2/3, and that's probably the amount of people that really will. It's kind of like, when you go on Facebook and you go to an event and you say, yeah, I'm interested. That's what it means, really, isn't it? You're taking, I'm interested. You're not necessarily going. 41% who haven't attended F1 fan experience plan to do so in the future. Yeah, again. But there we go. I mean, that's the F1. That's the main points of the F1 survey, which I thought was really interesting. Some of it is, it's a lot of it is all PR mulch. If you want, but there's a few interesting points there. If you've got any interesting points, comment below. Let us know. But until then, hit that big subscribe button if you're not subscribed and you liked what you saw. If you have already subscribed, just you watching this is more than enough for us. But if you want to hit that like button, that's going to help us too. We will speak to you next time. Thank you very much and stay safe.